Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're looking at creating this sort of rotating presentation effect in PowerPoint. So we're going to start with a new presentation. I am on the Home tab of the ribbon. I'm going to Layout and I'm going to select the blank layout to start off with. We're going to add a background to this, so I'm going to Design tab, go to Format Background. I'm just using a gradient fill. I have a radial gradient selected here. Use whatever kind of background you want. Going back to the Insert tab, this time I'm going to Word Art because I'm going to put my title in using Word Art. You want to get most of these elements created before you do anything more, so it might look like I'm sort of wasting time doing these bits and pieces at this stage, but because they're going to need to be on every slide in exactly the same position, it's worth getting them right to start off with. Next up, we're going to the Insert tab, we're going to Shapes. I'm going to draw a circle, so I'm going to the circle shapes that's here in the basic shapes. Hold down the Shift key, drag out a circle. Over here in the shape format, when it opens up, you'll see that there's a height and width. We're going to make that a set value just simply because it's going to make life easier. I'm using 8 and 8. And then you can choose your fill. Now this is going to be the fill for the little piece that rotates around. So for example, I might choose a green color. I'm going to turn off the outline so there's no outline. Next up, we're going again back to the Insert tab, back to Shapes, back to Basic Shapes, and we're going to select this option, which is the partial circle. Again, hold the Shift key as you drag out a partial circle. And again, this needs to be the exact same size as the other circle, so we're going to make it 8 and 8. And again, this is not to have any shape outline, so we're going to do no outline on it. I'm just going to line these up. We'll go back to the Home tab of the ribbon right now and click on Select and Selection Pane. This selection pane allows us to see what we've got inside our document and to select things. Before we go any further, let's go back to the Insert tab, back to Shapes and go to Lines. We're going to hold the Shift key as we drag out a horizontal line. I'm just going to make this a different color. I'm going to duplicate that by pressing Ctrl C to copy it and Ctrl V to make a duplicate and Ctrl V again to make another duplicate. So I've got 3 straight connectors, which are these 3 lines. I've got a partial circle, which is this blue thing, and an oval, which is the green thing. So I'm going to select on all of these. Click on the first one and Control click on every single other one of them. Don't select this rectangle because that's your text. We're going to the Shape Format tab, we're going to Align, we're going to Align Center, and then we're going back to Align here and choose Align Middle. And everything's lined up perfectly. Now click away from everything, go to one of these lines. You can see I've got one of the lines selected. We're going to Shape Format tab, Rotate, more rotation options. We're going to rotate this one 60 degrees. Then we're going to click on another one of these lines and rotate it 120. So you should have something that looks a bit like this. Next we're going to this partial circle. So if you're unsure whether you've got it selected, go back to the Home tab of the ribbon, go back to your selection pane, make sure you've got your partial circle selected. You can shrink everything down so you can see things more clearly. With just this partial circle selected, hold down the Shift key and rotate it around until that opening is in this position. Then you're going to the opening markers. So this is the little yellow dots that are controlling how big this segment is. Grab this one and take it back so it's lining up along that line. That's why we've got those orange lines here right now, just making it easier to see where everything is. We're going to take all these objects here, click on the straight connector, Control click on everything except for this rectangle, go to Shape Format and go to Group and Group. Now these objects are in a group, so you can select the group here in the selection panel and line everything up. So we're going to put everything on the bottom line of the slide here. At this point we can duplicate our slide, so over here right click and choose Duplicate Slide. Come back to this project plan and we're going to select the partial circle. We're going to put a picture in here. I've pre-prepared a picture because of what we've done to the circle in rotating it, the picture needs to be upside down. So I've found a picture, I've cropped it to square, and I've rotated it to upside down and saved it. So now I'm going to the shape format here. I'm going to shape fill, I'm going to picture, I'm going to from file, and I'm going to grab my picture. This image is from Omar Flores from unsplash.com, and you can see I've got a version of it that I've called upside down. And because it's upside down, it's actually coming into this shape the right way up. Square, because my shape is circular, it means that the image is not going to be distorted, it's not going to be stretched or compressed. So that's my first slide. I'm going to come here back on the first slide and grab these straight connectors and just delete them because I don't need them any longer. On the second slide, I do need them. On the second slide, what I need to do at this point is to rotate this shape around. So I'm going to select the group. I'm going to hold the Shift key and I'm just going to rotate this until that green slice comes into this position. You want to do that to the entire group. And then we're going to add the other elements which we need, which is the month or some text for over here. So we're going to insert and go to word art. I'm going to use the same word art object. I'm going to text effects, transform, and I'm just going to make this round. I'm going to line it up to the top piece where it doesn't belong yet, just to make sure I've got the curve pretty right, because it's going to be a little bit difficult to adjust the curve over here. So that's looking pretty good to me. I'm going to hold the Shift key as I rotate this around, and then we'll just move it into position over here. I'm also going to change the text fill on this. I'm not really happy with it, so I might just do a dark green text fill, and I'm going to remove the text outline as well. The other thing I need is an element for my text. So for this, I'm going to the Insert tab, go back to Shapes, and I'm going to find my rounded rectangle. Now I've used it before and it's over here, but if you've not used it recently, it's going to be in the rectangles area. Just going to drag out a rounded rectangle and I'm going to leave it over the edge of my slide. I'm going to remove the outline from it, and then I'm going to put a text box in here. So I'm going to insert and then text box. I'm going to draw a text box over this area, click in it and just type my text. You can put whatever text you want. I'm just adding some filler text. I'm going to make it white. I'm just making sure everything looks pretty good here. When we see the slide, anything that's over the edges won't actually show. So this slide's ready to go. I'm going to select it over here in the panel, right click and duplicate it. Before I leave this slide, I'm going to get rid of my connectors. We'll come on to the next slide. We're going to take this object and move it. Firstly, I'm going to hold the Shift key and rotate it around, and then we're going to put it into position and we'll change the text. We also need to rotate this shape, so I'm grabbing hold of my group. I'm going to hold the Shift key as I rotate it around so that the green piece is in the correct position. This slide is now complete, so I'm going to right click on it and duplicate it. Before I leave this slide, I'm going to remove my connectors. And here we're going to pick up this text, hold the Shift key as we rotate it around, move it into position, retype our heading. We need to rotate this shape around. I'm just going to shrink everything down so I can see it clearly. Hold down the Shift key as I rotate it around. Then we'll right click the slide and duplicate it. Before leaving this slide here, we're going to select and remove our connectors. And then for the last slide, we're going to remove the type here. So I'm just going to delete it. And I'm going to rotate this shape around. Again, just shrink it so that I make life a little bit easier for myself. Hold the Shift key as I rotate it. And then we're just going to remove the connectors. The last thing we need to do is to set up our transition, which is the morph transition. We're going to click the second slide and shift click on the fifth. We don't need to select the first slide because the morph transition is what is used as you launch into a slide. So there's no point in putting a morph transition on slide 1 since it is slide 1. You do it on the next slide. Go to transitions and just click morph. And now we can test our presentation, but of course it would be a really good idea to save it before you do that. I'm just going to live life in the fast lane here and click on the slide preview. Now I'm just going to wind it back to slide 1 because I was on slide 2 when I started. So this is what slide 1 looks like. I'm going to forward to slide 2. And here is our explanatory text coming in, our month, and the whole thing has rotated around. And for each subsequent slide, we're going to get the rotation and the text appearing. Now there are some minor things that we could do to clean things up. I'm not really 100% happy with the rotation on these words. January looks okay, but February and March are a little bit iffy. But you can see the basic process involved. So at this point, obviously, I would save this and get to work on the additional content for this presentation. If you like carefully researched content like this, clearly presented in a step-by-step format so that you can get great results every time, then you'll love my other YouTube videos. So give this video a thumbs up and click to subscribe to the channel. And on the screen now, you'll see a video that I've handpicked for you to watch next.